were to tell you that there is a man alive today who may have fathered over 1,000 children and is still going, what kind of man would do that?
Hi, thank you for watching a new video blog, Making Money as a Donor. I get this question many times, and I understand that there's a lot of ignorance about the topic of donors and getting paid. Now, I'm from the Netherlands, and I follow the rules from the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, they say you are not allowed to ask money for your service.
He's compulsively donating, and that activity really needs to stop from a legal standpoint. You know, there needs to be something done in the law that makes donors like him stop what they're doing because they have a prosecutable offence waiting for them at the other end of that. And unfortunately, these donors don't have any of those penalties to have to worry about. So they just go crazy donating everywhere. The industry really needs
I think
to
that's so important that there is that separation in your life of how you think about your son, but also the situation, and that really that, you know, the world and the legal system understand the impact that is harmful.
This is going to be very interesting, and I'm going to do my best to explain this as best as I can. Netflix is going to be dropping a documentary here in July, okay? The Man with 1,000 Kids, right? I started looking into this, and what I found was that there is a man who's also on YouTube spilling a little bit of his rhetoric, who has donated his sperm to various banks. There is an estimated 1,000 kids out there. He's been a sperm donor for about 16 years sperm donation. And there's about 1,000, potentially what they counted as 1,000 kids. Now, you know, I really don't like covering these kinds of topics, but what really got to me while I was reading this is because there's a component to a criminal aspect to this, okay? Criminal in my opinion because it's deceptive as far as what he's telling families. However, he's never been legally convicted or charged of anything. There was a lawsuit that was filed. His name is Jonathan Jacob Meijer, but they call him the Dutch serial sperm donor. There's a lot of scammers out there, but this guy takes things to a whole different level. Jonathan Jacob Meijer is a 41-year-old Dutch musician who may have merely been doing a kind and generous act when he first started donating his sperm to help hopeful parents. But where does generosity become creepy? And when does a creepy become unlawful? A lawsuit was recently filed against Meijer, who is allegedly a serial sperm donor, by the Donor Kind Foundation, a Dutch organization advocating for the interests of donor-conceived children, their parents, and prospective parents. The lawsuit alleged that Meijer has admitted to fathering over 550 children through his prolific sperm donation activities. That real number is likely between 800 to 1,000. The lawsuit also enters new legal territory, arguing that Meijer caused tangible harm based on an increased risk of incest and inbreeding. He's a repeated offender. Meijer has hardly been discreet about his prolific sperm donation numbers. Back in 2017, after several complaints, the Dutch Ministry of Health located at least 102 of Meijer's offspring as a result of his donation through multiple clinics. This was despite Meijer's having an agreement with each clinic he was not donating elsewhere, and despite agreeing that his donations were under the professional established limits of no more than 25 children. As a result, the Dutch clinics blacklisted Meijer, but despite the countrywide clinical ban, Meijer continues to donate throughout numerous sperm banks in other countries, as well through private donations directly to recipients. So there are lots and lots of children out there with half siblings. And I mean, this is one of those stories where it can get a little gray, right? But to me, this isn't a situation where this man is trying to be helpful, although that's what he proclaims. And we're going to watch some of his videos, and y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments.
There's still people that believe in caring for your fellow man. You know what the Bible says, helping your neighbors, being like a service to the community, doing things selflessly without asking anything for in return. I know that these things sound outdated to many of these believers of evolution, but yeah, still people do this. They still want to do things for their fellow men. There's still people that believe that that's good to do, that is rewarding, that you get a spiritual rewarding here, now, in this place, because you get a lot of positive energy from the parents, from the children, but also in the afterlife. You build up something, so in the afterlife you will be loved as well, and that God will welcome you in His presence. So yeah, that is what motivated me. It was something that I felt. I was grown up Christian, and I was always taught, help your fellow man, help them in when they're in need, and don't act only for yourself. I find it rather egoistic when people are not helping other people, like selfishly and only wanting to do things in return. I understand, of course, you have to work, you get rewarded for it, that's fine. You provide a good service to other people, that's fine, you get paid. But I don't see so many people these days doing things selflessly or without for their fellow man. That's something, yeah, it's rare to see. Maybe that's why because they believe so much in evolution, that everything should be focused on you, your genes. They must survive. Do anything in your power to make them survive. Get the best wife, get the best children. Make superhumans out of it. Make your body as strong as possible, because that's evolution. That's what evolution told you to do. That's the mindset of these people. They are not here like, hey, I'm a spiritual being. I got, I was born into this world thanks to a miracle. I should help others that are less fortunate as me. This is rewarding. I am happy to spend time with people, just without wanting a lot from them. Like how I visit my children and the parents. I don't get any rewards besides something spiritual. That I have a great day, that the children have a great day, the parents have a great day, that we're all happy, and that we all build something beautiful inside of us. Because that's what I believe. So, yeah, again, God complex, egocentric, ego boost. Yeah, I think this is all just like projections of these people's self. That's what they would think if they will do something like that. They have to do it because for a reason that can boost their ego. That's what they do in life, probably. Maybe not, maybe they're great people, but most of the times when you say to other people like, oh, you're doing this for that reason, mostly it's a projection. You're projecting your own motivation on people.
I do have a problem with the way he's going about things. Allegedly, he's lied about his names. There are multiple aliases of his, okay? He's not going about this in the most ethical way. Allegedly, he's had contact with some of these children. So in some of these countries, it's okay to know who the donor is. It's public information. So from the children, if the children want to have contact with their donor, they're allowed to do that. And he's happy to donate, and he's been donating both privately. And this is what seems to be a reputable business for him. However, he claims that he is not really making a lot of money off of this, like other than the typical expenses, the compensation of the clinic. And you guys are going to hear it from his own words. He's on YouTube spilling a lot of this, and I'm surprised people have not caught on. But the fact that we have somebody on YouTube with 1,000 children potentially, and he doesn't even own that, I'm a little concerned, Linda. I'm a little concerned. Ava's story is one of the plaintiffs in the case, going by the name of Ava. Describes her decision to become a single mother at 33. She opted to find a donor directly because clinic wait lists for sperm donors were several years long, and because ironically she was concerned with scandals involving fertility clinics after a notorious case of a deceptive doctor using his own sperm and patients. Further, Ava describes how it was important to her that her child be able to know who the donor was and be able to communicate with them in the future. Ava signed up with the website called One Wish. Before long, Ava received a message from Jacob Meijer. And I think it's Meijer. That's how you say it, or Meijer. Correct me in the chat because it's spelled Meijer. Meijer. I believe it's Meijer, but correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. Meijer wrote that his donation history had resulted in about 10 children in 10 years, that he was a fan of guidelines of no more than 20 to 25 children in total, and that it was important to him that all of his offspring know exactly who he was, and that they did not experience emotional loss after chatting with Meijer and meeting with him. Ava decided that he was the right fit. Several donations and home inseminations later, Ava became pregnant and gave birth to her son in 2018. About a year later, Ava discovered the truth about Jonathan Meijer, that he had repeatedly lied to her and was, in fact, a prolific mass donor. Ava confronted Meijer by WhatsApp, and where he eventually admitted to lying, but said that the other donors aren't honest about their numbers either. Harm of mass donation. The complaint describes many of the harms caused by Meijer's excessive donation activities, including the risk of inbreeding, incest, negative psychosocial implications. The complaint reference of a number of studies included a growing body of literature indicating that a large number of offspring per donor is harmful. The literature literally indicates that a responsible limit on sperm donation is no more than 10 families per donor. The complaint also notes that the risk of future generations remains, given that Meijer's descendants may unwittingly marry their cousins, uncles, and aunts. The ask. The complaint does not ask that Meijer be punished for his fraudulent activities, spend time in prison, or pay damages for the harm he has caused. Instead, it demands that Meijer be absolutely prohibited from donating to a new prospective parent, and that he provide a list of clinics he had already donated to, and that he writes to these clinics with the request that any stored samples be destroyed. It should be noted that Jonathan Jacob Meijer doesn't have any legal children of his own, right? Like he doesn't have any children that he's raising. He seems, if you look at his Facebook, he travels a lot. He likes to eat raw food. I've saw a little bit of that. He feels like what he's doing is not wrong. He feels like, he is giving a gift to society, to the people. And then
to see this as a side job, as a way of income, of making money, to me that's not fair. That's really something I do not see as morally correct. Now, if you ask me, what if other donors ask money or some extra money? I say it's their problem. It's not mine. I am not the moral warrior, justice warrior. I am doing what I do, and personally, I do not agree for myself. But if somebody else says, well, I want to get some compensation for my services, extra than only travel expenses or other expenses covered, well, that's their thing. I mean, who am I to judge about that? That's up to them. As long as they're helping in a good way, correct way, I'm not really bothered by that. But personally, for myself, no, I didn't make any money. Like I say, first of all, in the Netherlands, it is not allowed. And I also think that throughout Europe, it's not allowed. I'm not sure what it's outside of Europe, but this is where I come from, so that's what I follow. You get, and you are allowed to ask for a compensation of your costs. And that is okay for me, because, it's something you do voluntarily. I did it to help people, and of course it shouldn't cost me money. Now I must say that, travel expenses, you get covered. Sometimes the people cover you for STD, like I do the STD test for them if they want to have a new refreshed STD test. So they cover these costs. And this is like 175 euros for STT test, and the travel expense depends on where you come from. I had people living 5 kilometers away from me, so they didn't have to pay travel expenses, but they could also live 200 kilometers away or even more. And of course, I would ask the travel expenses reimbursed. In the clinics, it works the same. You get a compensation for your travel expenses and like a little bit extra. Mostly you get like, depends on the clinics. In Amsterdam, for example, it was like 25 euros. I had to pay extra for my train ticket to go to Amsterdam, for example. And later I said to them, well, you know, I pay 10 euros every time extra to come here. And then they increased the travel expenses. So they pay really minimal. It's really minimal what a donor gets. Other clinics, the clinics that gave the biggest compensation, you have to think about 85 euros for every time you visit them. And yeah, regardless if you come by bike or if you came all the way from a town far away, you get 85 euros. So it balances it out. So one clinic was, you know, you had to pay extra, the other was giving more than you needed because the train tickets would be like 50 euros. So
and that he's potentially misunderstood. At least that's what I picked up. So my thought process behind this is, and I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Is he being unethical by doing this? Is there a potential based on the numbers of people that we have in the world? Which I mean, can y'all Google search how many people we have in the world and let me know on the comments? Is he doing something wrong for society? And now that there's about potentially 1,000 children out there that are half siblings to each other, is there a risk of there being health concerns or problems? You know, I know that they're all over the world. It's my understanding that the man lives in Kenya, so he's in a different part of the world. It's my understanding that he has not been honest in any of these clinical donation sperm things, that he gives misinformation. So I almost feel like there might be a fault there with the clinics as well, that you guys clearly don't have enough tape to safeguard situations like this, and you haven't, because he's been donating for the last 16 years. My understanding is that his oldest child is 16 and the youngest one is about 3, if not 2, from what I've been able to pull up research. Let's keep reading this article that tells the story of Ava. Despite the request to bar Meijer from further donations, it does not include a limited exception. The complaint carves out from its request for relief a ban on Meijer's donating to parents already with children or currently pregnant with children for Meijer's donation and wishing to have additional children who are fully genetically related to each other. For those who follow the podcast, we had an unknowing recipient of Meijer's sperm for an interview a few years ago. Her name is Laura, and that was the clip that we played earlier on this video. Laura received a sperm from a Danish sperm bank, assured her that it strictly followed government set limits. Of course, Meijer had lied to the sperm bank about his previous donations and many offspring. Laura found out after the birth of their child that her newborn likely had more than 800 half siblings. Laura described Meijer's threats that were echoed in a complaint. If a parent questioned or criticized his prolific donations or deceptive behavior, Meijer would cut off all communications with the parent and their child. So even though he has promoted himself online to say, like, you know, I'm here for the children. If they want to have contact with me, I'm more of an uncle. Of course, I'm not raising them. I'm just making them, like that type of deal. And then he also gives this argument about like how people support abortion, but they want to take away his rights to donate his sperm that is helping people. Like he gives this is a bit of a fallacious argument, right? Regardless of wherever you stand on that situation. And I really don't try to get into the weeds of that because I don't like telling people what to do, what they can't do, what they should believe as far as that goes. But in this specific instance, it's interesting how he makes these arguments, and there's a lot of fallacy behind what he said. What he feels like is that he is being restricted from being able to help people. But I do kind of wonder, because he minimizes how much he's actually receiving in donations. He looks like he is I guess you can call him an entrepreneur, because he's all over the. I don't. He doesn't, outside of what we know that he's a musician. We really don't know what else, like what other businesses he has, other than just being a donor of sperm, baby maker. I guess that's what you would call it, right? I don't. There's not a whole lot behind him, as far as what he does, and he doesn't have children of his own, so he has no interest in having his own children. He just wants to give out children like that, right? And do what he has to do, and he feels like he's a bit of a Mother Teresa because of it, and people don't see it that way. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments, how you feel about this. Despite this, Laura and her wife very much wanted a second child and felt it better for their first child that he not be in this unusual situation alone, if that's the right word. The significance. The American assisted reproductive technology legal expert, Professor Jody Madeira, notes that if this lawsuit is successful, it will be the first time a serial donor has been held accountable for this unorthodox and unethical donations. This sends a message that donors cannot pursue their personal donation desires in ways that contradict clinics and public policies. Readers may wonder why Meijer has not already faced legal consequences for his deceptive activities. But of course, we have seen comparable situations in the United States with doctors using their own sperms to impregnate their patients. And when the truth comes out, facing minimal legal consequences. If the complaint succeeds, it will be one signal that the tide is turning on holding deceptive donors accountable for their misconduct. I am going to link the article from Above the Law in the description box. And this is they run a podcast where they talk a lot about reproductive stuff. For anybody that might be interested in those topics, it'll all be in the description box. Now, you might be wondering how serious this situation was for the Netherlands. This is DonorKind, and they put up a statement back in 2023 about all of this. They said a mother and the Donor Child Foundation have initiated a summary proceeding to ban a sperm donor who has at least 550 children from fathering any more donor children. And according to this lawyer of DonorKind, his behavior is dangerous for the mental well-being and health of donor children. By giving preference of his reproductive urge, the donor acts unlawfully. In addition, he violates the agreements with the clinics and with the intended parents because they relied on his promise that he would father a maximum of 25 children. Now, while Netflix did this documentary and it's dropping next month, the court did reach a conclusion over what they think about Jonathan Meijer, father of up to 600 children, banned from donating sperm by Dutch court. A Dutch court on Friday, and of course this article's April of last year, so keep that in mind, on Friday ordered a man who judge said had fathered between 500 to 600 children around the world to stop donating sperm. Has that stopped him from donating? I don't think so, because he's talking about it in his YouTube channel. But at least in this area, he's not able to donate. 41-year-old Dutch man identified by the Telegraph newspaper as Jonathan Meijer was forbidden from donating more semen to clinics. The court ruling said he could be fined 100,000 euros per infraction. The court ordered Mr. Meijer to write to the clinics overseas asking them to destroy any of his semen they have in stock, except doses reserved for parents who already had children by him. The decision came after a civil case started by a foundation representing the interests of donors' children and Dutch parents who had used Mr. Meijer as a donor. They argue that major donations violated the rights to a private life of his donor children, whose ability to form romantic relationships are hampered by fears of accidental incest and inbreeding. He did a video about that. Watch this.
Think about the arguments of the chances of higher inbreeding amongst donor children that have a large sibling group, that are from a large sibling group. Well, first it's good to understand there's 3 ways that you can become a donor. The first is being completely anonymous donors. In the past, it was normal that donors were completely anonymous, and they would stay there. Children would never know who their donor father was. In some countries, this is still the case, like in Belgium, for example. But for example, in the Netherlands, we choose to change that, so we abolished the anonymity. And from now on, we go to the second donor, and that's the known donor. It means that the donor has to show his identity at a certain age. In the Netherlands, is this, for example, 16 years. A donor child can know who his donor father is at the age of 16. And they can get some basic information, and they even can get to meet him. They can get a chance to meet him. And this is mostly done in clinics. So if you become a donor, you go to a clinic, this is the way it is going to be. You accept that after 16 years, yeah, you will be contacted. You could be contacted, of course, if the children want that, the second form. And that's also how I participated in the clinics. I participated in the clinics, and that makes me a known donor. So a smaller part of the children are able to know my identity when they're 16. But due to the current circumstances and due to the developing situation around me, they are already in contact with me because they found out that that I'm their donor father. And there's some mothers, they found out, they make the link like, oh, he's a donor, he's blonde curly hair, he's from the Hague, this age, he's working as a teacher or was working as a teacher. So they found me, and now I'm already in contact with them. Now the last form, the third form in which you can be a donor, is the known donor plus. This means that the donor is known from the very first moment, that he's a private donor, he contacts with people directly, there's no clinic in between them, and he mostly contacts with them by internet, fertility groups, and he donates directly to the recipients, to the parents. And the known donor plus is most of the times also directly involved in the life of the children. So the parents, for example, have a picture of me, the parents, they will tell about me, they will meet up with me. Most of the times I also have contact with the children, and that is a known donor plus. So he is visible. The children also know my name most of the times, completely visible. So if you then ask me, well, what do you think about inbreeding argument that children, if they're from a huge group like 550 children, well, what do you think about this inbreeding danger? Well, in my case, just completely zero. Let me explain. First of all, the children live worldwide, so they're spread out over like maybe 20 or 30 different countries, maybe more. Then, secondly, of course, 50% are feminine and the other 50% are masculine, so 50% boys, 50% girls. And this means that if you assume that they're all heterosexual, or in general their majority is heterosexual, it already leaves like half of them like out of the picture. You have then about 250 or 70 children left over that are in like a risk. Then you have to understand that lots of these children are siblings. I help create families with 2, 3, even 4 and 5 children. So that means that the amount will become smaller, that you are possible going to come across and fall in love with, have a relation with, and then have children with. But the final thing is, say that like of these, because when we go back to this 250 and then siblings in one family, let's say roughly 125 different possibilities. Let's say one of the children runs into another child without knowing that they're half siblings. So count with me again for the chances of inbreeding. First of all, the children live worldwide. They're spread out over Europe, they're spread out over the whole world. So the chances, the distance creates a barrier for them to meet up. Then we have to take into account that 50% is masculine, 50% is feminine. So assuming that 98% is heterosexual, the chances that we'll meet up is also 50%. So you have 550, like 225. Then children are they have siblings in one family, so that also creates a smaller portion. Let's say then go back to also divided by 2, 125 children. Finally, what is important is to understand that there's the age gap. The oldest child is now 15 and the youngest child is still a baby. If you think seriously that the youngest child is going to be romantically looking in the age category of the 15-year-old later, and let's say they're 18 or 20, you think that the 20-year-old is like, that they're all looking in the age gap of 30 or 35. Most of the times, most people, they look somebody 2, 3, 4 years of age difference. Personally, I am more the type that is looking for younger girls, like in their 20s, but I'm an exception.
Mr. Meijer's mass donation first came to light in 2017, and he was banned from donating to the Dutch fertility clinics, where he had already fathered over 100 children. However, he continued to donate in other countries, including to the Danish Sperm Bank in Cryos, which operates internationally, and it does. Mr. Meijer also continues to offer himself as a donor on site, matching prospective parents with sperm donors, sometimes using different names, according to the daily newspapers. As much as I respect everybody's choices and everything, I don't think that Jonathan has gone about this in the most ethical way, right? He wants to bring out morality, all this other arguments that he can to make an argument as to why he should continue donating. But he's also lying and misinforming the public about how many children he actually has out there through his donations. And that, my friends, is a concern for everybody, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Where do you stand? Are you going to be watching this Netflix series? Because I definitely want to watch it. I'm very much curious to know what happens with this situation. I'll see you guys on the next one. Rabbits out. Bye, guys.